I did a double take on my screen. A well-known XRP insider is saying XRP could hit $1,000. Sounds absolutely bonkers, right? I thought so too, until I dug into the why behind that bold claim. And what I found, it left me equal parts shocked and excited. So here is the setup. I'm scrolling through crypto Twitter, or X, or whatever we call it these days, and I saw this tweet from an XRP community veteran who goes by the name of 𝗗𝗄𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and predicting that XRP is about to go parabolic. Now I'm talking 4 digits XRP prices, right? Now, my first reaction was, hold on, did he just say XRP to $1,000? I mean, I'm already bullish on XRP just like many of you guys, but $1,000 per coin is a whole nother level of hype. So I almost kind of just laughed it off as just another wild crypto fantasy. Almost. Right? But then he mentioned something specific that actually grabbed my attention. This was a piece of news that slipped under a lot of people's radars. And now that news is kind of what made me stop kind of laughing and actually start on listening. Because by the end of this story here today, you might just see why some people truly do believe that the next chapter for XRP could be its most explosive yet. So stick around, because this isn't just another crypto price prediction. It is a personal journey through a very real development that might just change everything for XRP. Alright, let's rewind to how all of this started. Because I'm just sitting there, probably procrastinating on something important. But then I stumbled on that tweet, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗍. If you know him, he's one of those kind of voices, I guess, in the XRP community that people really do pay attention to. And he's not usually a moon boy kind of throwing out some crazy numbers without any reason. So when he says XRP is about to reach the 4-digit range, I had to find out why. Right? He's calling Ripple's latest move a game changer, almost like it's the trigger for a financial earthquake. Now, I could feel the curiosity just building up in me, like, what does he know that I don't? It turns out that the big reveal was something that Ripple did recently. They acquired a company called GTreasury for a whopping $1 billion. Now, I'll be honest with you, at first, GTreasury didn't ring a bell for me. It sounded kind of like a finance department software, right? Well, that's exactly what it is. GTreasury is a platform used by over 1,000 of the world's largest corporations to manage their daily cash flows and treasuries. So we are talking billions of dollars moving through this system every single day for Fortune 500 companies. And now Ripple bought it and plugged it into Ripple's XRP Ledger universe. Just let that sink in for a second. Ripple essentially embedded XRP into the core of corporate finance plumbing. So just imagine a financial system then is kind of like an old city with ancient plumbing, right? Ancient pipes. Now Ripple just replaced a major pipeline in that city with one that's connected to XRP. Now, GTreasury's platform is used by some of the biggest companies to move and manage money. So by acquiring GTreasury, Ripple didn't just buy some random company. They bought a direct gateway into Fortune 500 treasuries. Now, it's kind of as if overnight, XRP got invited into the boardrooms of major corporations. Now, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗋𝗋 basically said that this deal positions XRP as a core component of global real-time liquidity management. In plain English, XRP isn't just a crypto token for retail traders anymore. It's actually gearing up to be the backbone of moving money across borders and between companies. I mean, just think about how huge that is. For years, XRP fans, myself included, have been talking about the utility. One day, banks and businesses will use XRP widely, right? It was that kind of thing. Well, this GTreasury acquisition is that vision starting to actually happen in real life. It's kind of like Ripple built a 6-lane highway and just merged XRP right into it, right? And that highway feeds into trillions of dollars of corporate funds. Now, these corporations use GTreasury to handle cash, investments, payments, you name it. Now, with XRP potentially integrated, suddenly XRP has a route into mainstream finance flows. 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗋 actually put it this way: with GTreasury in the mix, XRP Ledger, the XRPL, can support tokenized assets, stablecoins, and even decentralized finance, DeFi, at scale. Basically, it's all of the buzzwords like stablecoins, real-world assets, tokens, think tokenized stocks, real estate, etc. They could be all run on the XRP Ledger for big institutions. And here is the kicker. GTreasury's platform is fully compliant with the strict requirements of Fortune 500 companies. That means that it checks all of the regulatory and security boxes that big companies and CFOs care about. By extension, XRP steps into a compliant framework. So now, institutions, the big money players that we've all been waiting for, might finally actually feel safe using XRP. Now, we could see things like institutions holding XRP as part of their reserves, or banks using XRP because the infrastructure meets their standards. So if if you've been around the XRP community for a while, then you know that this institutional adoption angle is going to be huge. Now, am I saying that this is guaranteed XRP will moon? Not so fast, right? I am excited, but I'm also going to have to be real with you and myself here. In fact, let me just hit pause right here for a much needed reality check. And this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. I know the disclaimers, they are not the fun part, but they are rather important, especially when we're talking about jaw-dropping price targets like $1,000 XRP. We do have to stay grounded, as ever, just in case we let our imaginations just run a little bit too wild. So, picking up where we left off, Ripple now owns GTreasury, which is like having a VIP pass to introduce XRP into global corporate finance. Because GTreasury's system is trusted by big companies, integrating XRP there could mean that those companies might start using XRP without even realizing it. It could be behind the scenes, powering cross-border payments or treasury transfers in seconds instead of days. So imagine a multinational company being able to shuffle funds between its international accounts instantly using XRP. No more waiting 2 or 3 days for wire transfers or dealing with clunky old systems. Now, this is the vision, right? XRP becomes the invisible engine beneath a ton of enterprise transactions. And 𝗗𝗊𝘀𝗰𝗋𝗀 is basically saying now that all of this infrastructure is in place, the floodgates for big money are actually open. Now, he mentioned things like ETFs, custodial solutions, mainstream financial markets, all potentially bringing capital into XRP. Think about ETFs, the exchange-traded funds, approvals for XRP, or large custodians offering XRP to their clients. Right? That used to sound a bit far-fetched, but if the plumbing and compliances are all there thanks to the moves like GTreasury, it actually edges closer to reality. We've already seen, Bitcoin ETFs being a huge for inflows, right? If XRP, is seen as sufficiently legit by institutions, it could also join the party. And all of those applications for XRP ETFs, well, they are due to have a decision by the SEC soon. So, what does all of that mean for the price then? Well, here is where Finance Bull went kind of full on optimistic mode, and where I nearly kind of fell out of my chair for the second time that day. Right, he laid out a kind of timeline for XRP's price in different scenarios. The short term, 3 to 6 months, he sees XRP in the kind of $2 to $3 range. All right, so that's kind of where we are right now. Nothing crazy, pretty much just sideways trading, right? And it wouldn't be a new all-time high or anything like that, because the all-time high was about $3.84 back in the 2017 run. Now his midterm, 6 to 18 months, he's talking about, double-digit territory. Now we're kind of into new all-time highs, but still within reason if the kind of bull market does kick on in and utility grows a bit. And long term, he's talking about $20 to $100. Okay, so now we're talking some serious growth. That would likely mean XRP truly becoming a bit of a backbone for cross-border finance somewhere, maybe grabbing a chunk of Swift's $5 trillion a day payment business or something like that, right? And then the big one, his max potential, $1,000 plus. And he thinks, yes, with 3 zeros on that one, by the way. And when I first read that, I had to kind of blink a few times, because $1,000 per XRP, I can almost hear half of you cheering and the other half just rolling your eyes, right? And I will be honest, the pragmatic side of me is skeptical about that number, right? To reach $1,000 with XRP's supply, the market cap would be pretty astronomical, in tens of trillions of dollars. Basically meaning XRP would be one of the most valuable assets on the planet. That implies a future where XRP kind of underpins a huge portion of global finance, not just crypto's markets. It's a moonshot scenario, there's no doubt about it. But here is the thing, Finance Bull isn't saying that it's going to happen overnight, or even that it's guaranteed to happen at all. All he is saying is that XRP truly becomes, or if XRP truly does become, the backbone for trillions of dollars of flows, then the 4-digit price could just be conceivable in that kind of far-fetched future. Now, it's kind of like the absolute best case end game that he can envision for XRP. As someone who's kind of held XRP for many years, the idea is equal parts thrilling and a bit unbelievable. It's the kind of thing that you daydream about with your fellow XRP holders on a late-night Discord chat. Imagine if one day, right? Usually kind of followed by a lot of nervous laughter because it feels just so far out there. Speaking of Discord, by the way, if you haven't already, come and join our free educational Discord server. The link is in the description. That is where we share news, crazy predictions like this, memes to survive the volatility, and just help each other understand the crypto world. It's a solid community, and hey, it's completely free. So if you've got nothing to lose except maybe a few hours chatting about crypto when you should probably be sleeping. Now, here is the funny part of this whole story. While all these big moves and bold predictions are swirling around, XRP's price lately has been meh. In fact, at the time of this recording, XRP is down something like 20% over the past week. Pretty ouch, right? So if you had only looked at the price chart, then you would think that XRP was on life support or something, right? The sentiment has been pretty shaky too. People are frustrated, right? Saying things like, why isn't XRP moving? Did we all just drink the Kool-Aid? Or they're all claiming now that they're in a bear market. Right? You kind of know the vibe, right? We've seen so many hype cycles where nothing seems to happen, and it tests your patience. But this is where Finance Bull's message really hit me, right? He calls the current situation the calm before the storm. And that phrase kind of gave me flashbacks to 2017, right? When Bitcoin was kind of sitting quietly around a few thousand and then exploded, right? And even earlier this year when things were sideways for what felt like forever, and then all of a sudden things heated up. It's kind of like those moments in a movie where everything gets really quiet and you just know that something big is about to go down. Now, according to him, the people who have held on to XRP through all of the FUD, the lawsuits, the skepticism, they are the early believers, and they are likely to see, or at least about to see, what they've actually endured all that pain for. I mean, remember the SEC lawsuit against Ripple? It was a huge deal, right? And for a while, XRP was essentially blacklisted on US exchanges. The community was in complete despair, and it felt like XRP was never going to catch a break. But then, Ripple got a partial victory in court. XRP was declared not a security in the secondary sales. Obviously, when you think about it, it's very difficult for XRP in itself to be a security, which is why I was always saying from 2020 that it doesn't make a lot of sense for the SEC to do this. And of course, after that partial win, the exchanges started relisting it. That was a bit of a turning point, right? Regulatory clarity, even if incomplete at the time, it started forming. Pair that with Ripple's aggressive expansion strategies, and you have kind of bought prime broker Hidden Road, a stablecoin platform called Rail, and now this GTreasury platform, a management firm, I should say, GTreasury, and you kind of see a bit of a pattern. They are building an ecosystem where XRP can indeed thrive. From the compliance and the custody, prime brokerage to stablecoin issuance and liquidity, to corporate adoption. Right? It's kind of like Ripple is assembling the Avengers of crypto finance, one acquisition at a time. And XRP is their Iron Man, or Captain America if you prefer. Suddenly, all of these separate news pieces are clicking together in my head. It reframed how I view XRP's recent lackluster performance. This is that Warren Buffett quote, right? You want to be greedy when people are fearful. And right now, people are just blindsidingly, stupidly fearful. Instead of thinking, nothing is happening, I'm actually starting to think, wow, a lot is actually happening. And it hasn't reflected in the price yet. And that is a crucial realization because sometimes the fundamentals are moving underground, building the pressure, even while on the surface, the price, it looks calm or even just in a downtrend. Right? If X-Finance Ball is right about all of this, then what we're about to see happen next, or at least are seeing now, in fact, is just a coiled spring for that big breakout situation. Well, the infrastructure that is being laid quietly, the regulatory green lights, the partnerships there, the acquisitions over here, and one day it could just snap into a massive run. Now, let me temper that by saying this. We've all heard grand stories in crypto before. Not every grand narrative comes true. And I'm not here to tell you that XRP will definitely hit $1,000 or even $100. Nobody knows the future. And if they say that they do, guess what? They're lying, right? But I will tell you this personal takeaway. This whole deep dive reignited my excitement for XRP's potential. I've always held a little bag of XRP. It's modest to me, right? Because I do believe in that vision of faster, cheaper cross-border payments. Now, over time, with all of the drama, it's easy to get jaded by it. But reading about Ripple's $1 billion GTreasury move and seeing respected community members connecting all the dots, it reminded me why I got into XRP in the first place. It's not just blind hype here. There are some real moves happening to back it all up. It also reminded me of a lesson. By the time that everyone is talking about something, the easy gains are usually gone. But when things are quiet, even gloomy, that's when the groundwork is usually being laid. It kind of feels like XRP's groundwork is pretty much set now, right? The treasury infrastructure is built, the regulatory path is clearer, then there's even kind of, it's better than it's ever been, right? And of course, the big players have a door to step into, right? These are interesting developments. Does it guarantee a price explosion? No, of course not. Nothing is guaranteed. But does it set the stage for one heck of a potential run? I would say yes, it does. So during my little research adventure here, another thought hit me. Because if XRP truly starts moving, we might see crazy trading volumes. And in crypto, when volume spikes, exchanges can go down or get overwhelmed. Now, I've experienced that chaos many times before. I mean, just look at the most recent crash as an example. You probably remember times when Coinbase or others went offline during the big pumps. Well, it's one reason that I always keep a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C when it comes to the exchanges. I have accounts on multiple different crypto exchanges so that I'm not stuck with one platform, or at least if one platform freezes at the worst possible moment. For example, I'm over on Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, Blowfin, BitGet, in addition to many others. And I've got affiliate links for all of these down in, on our website. And in the description below, you'll find a link to our website where you can review them all. But using those links, it does support the channel here, at least, by a way of a bit of a commission from the exchange. It costs you nothing extra, but if you do go over to the website and use those links, it is very much appreciated. So thank you if you do. Now, the point is that whenever an exchange that you prefer, whatever exchange you prefer, you've got to consider having a backup or two ahead of time, because you've got to get your account set up. You've got to KYC if it's needed. I mean, some don't, but most do. And maybe even test a small trade. Now, trust me here, the last thing that you're going to want to be doing is scrambling to open up a new exchange account in the middle of a price surge. Or, knock on wood, you go to exchange suddenly halts your withdrawals. Right? Being prepared is going to be key in crypto, especially if you believe something big is on the horizon for XRP or any other coin. So here we are at the end of this journey. We started at a random kind of tweet on a lazy kind of scroll that turned into a deep investigation and a story that I just had to share with you guys. 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗍𝗱 said, "This is where it begins." Maybe he is right. Maybe Ripple's $1 billion GTreasury deal will go down in history as one of those moments that XRP quietly slipped into the driver's seat of global finance. Or maybe it will just be one of those many steps with a lot more work to actually do. Either way, I'm glad that I didn't just dismiss this as kind of pure hype. It pushed me to uncover what's really happening behind the scenes here. And now, I want to hear from you guys. Does this GTreasury news change how you feel about XRP's future? Do you think $1,000 XRP is pure hopium? Or could we actually be early witnesses to something historic? You can let me know in the comments down below or join us in the free Discord server. And if you do want that, obviously the link is down in the description. Right, we're all on this roller coaster together, and sharing all of these findings makes that ride just a little bit more interesting. At the end of the day, and I don't mean to use the cliche, but it fits here, whether XRP reaches the moon or not, staying informed and thinking critically is how we win in the long run. For me, this felt like one of those aha kind of moments where you connect the dots and see the much bigger picture. XRP's story here, it is not over. It might just be getting to the really good part. So if you've enjoyed coming on this little adventure into the XRP rabbit hole with me, you can do me a favor by hitting the like button and the subscribe button and join me for the next one, because there's never a dull moment when it comes to crypto, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. I'll see you all in the next video.